Welcome back, MTN Giants podcast for the first time in about 3 months, which I think is the longest layoff I've had with the Giants since I started doing this channel. So, been a while. It's time for a season preview. The season starts in about 2.5, 3 weeks. We're getting there. Preseason is over halfway done, 2/3 of the way there. It's over on Thursday already, which seems like it's so soon, but Thursday against New England, final game. I was at the game Saturday, which was the first Giants game I attended in a very long time. I feel like maybe since 2019 or something. So it was good to be back there. I'm actually going to throw some clips from that in this video just to have some nice Giants clips in the background. Why not? But yeah, I want to talk about everything. Just not the entire offseason, but just where everything is at. The vibes, which the vibes are really immaculate right now with the Giants. I would say since I've talked about this team since 2018, I would say this is the best I feel about the team since then. And it's crazy because even going back to January, February, I would say March even, before the draft, I mean, the vibes with the Giants were not great. It was people asking, why is Brian Daboll back? Why is Joe Schoen back? Because one more bad year and those guys are done, which it still could be true. But after having a great draft and what we've seen so far in training camp and so far in preseason, people have definitely changed their attitude. And I feel like myself included, I was never never banging the table saying, Joe Schoen needs to be fired. I wasn't saying that. But I was at a point where I was like, look, if they want to fire him, it's fine. It makes sense. So I was definitely on board with it, but I did want them to at least fire both, which luckily I think they made the second best decision, which I think was to just keep both of them, and they did. So at least Brian Daboll, Joe Schoen have minimum one more year at this. I think they'll get 2 years. I do, because I do think Jackson Dart plays at some point this year, and I've said that since the moment he was drafted. I'm not sure why people thought he would sit for an entire year, but I think most people now have come around to the idea of Jackson Dart playing sometime in 2025. And maybe part of it's because he's looked good in preseason, or maybe some of it's because they've realized a full season of Russell Wilson is not what we want, or doesn't really make too much sense. But anyway, yeah, a lot to get into. I don't know how long this will be, but hope you guys enjoy. And of course, once the season starts, we'll be reacting to every game. Get back to doing this more often. As you guys know, I've been doing a lot more, long form video essay type videos, which I've been enjoying, so I've been trying to keep up with that. But as for the Giants videos, I will react to every game still. That's not going away, so we're still doing that. But yeah, hope you guys enjoy this one, and let's get into it. I started this Google Doc a few weeks ago of what I wanted to go over, so some of this might be outdated, but just bear with me. So Jalen Hyatt put on 20 pounds of muscle. It does not seem to make any sort of difference so far, but that was one big offseason topic. Andrew Thomas, which we found out good news today about him, but he may be ready for week 1. But after finding out today that the Giants took him off the PUP list, there is a better chance that Andrew Thomas returns from that Liz Frank foot injury. It's Russell Wilson starting week 1. We're 99.9% sure of that. I don't think they officially announced it, but barring something crazy happening, it's Russell Wilson. They're putting Evan Neal at right guard, as we know, as kind of a last-ditch effort during OTAs, and he has to beat out Greg Van Roten, which is probably not going to happen for Evan Neal. Neal's had an okay preseason. He had bad reps in there. There was the one where he allowed a pressure to Jackson Dart, and Dart was going for a back shoulder throw about 30 yards downfield, and without that pressure given up by Neal, I feel like Dart probably completes that play. It was against the Jets on Saturday. Darren Waller got traded for a 6th round pick. Did not see that one coming. Jackson Dart had his ups and downs in training camp, but the vibes are good, and the vibes are even better since I typed that out. And I feel like every single Giants content creator, every single Giants beat reporter, every NFL media person said the same thing about Abdul Carter. The guy looks different compared to everybody else. And he looked great in the first game against the Bills, the preseason game. Didn't show up as much against the Jets, but the Giants did kind of put him in some disadvantageous situations. So that's something we'll talk about. But just putting Abdul Carter in places where guys that are 40 pounds heavier should be taking on those roles and not Abdul Carter. So we'll talk about that later, though, once we get to the defense. I want to touch on position battles. Right guard, I talked about that briefly. It looks like it's Greg Van Roten's to lose. I'd be pretty shocked if it's not him week 1. There was some hope for a Jake Kubis or someone like that, but that didn't work out. But Evan Neal was the one that was really going to give GVR a run for his money. Just turns out that's not going to be the case. Cornerback 2 is interesting. Deonte Banks versus Cordell Flott. Flott was used with the first team the first day of training camp, which I think opened up some eyebrows. But it also could have been a message to Deonte Banks, like, yeah, your job is up for grabs, and I don't care where you were drafted. This is a real competition. But with Deonte Banks, you still see the same problems. It's very annoying because we said this from the beginning of last year. I remember ranting about this during the Browns game or after the Browns game last season, which I think was like week 3. It was early. But the guy, Deonte Banks, can stick with his receiver very well. But when it comes to getting that head turned, he just can't do it. And it's so annoying. It's like half the battle with him. Now, I guess I'd rather have a guy that can stick with the receiver and not get his head turned than the opposite, like a guy that gets beat by receivers but can turn his head. So I guess he has that going for him. But if he just fixed that part of his game, I mean, Deonte Banks is going to be a good cornerback in this league, but that one crucial aspect just cannot get fixed. The running back rotation seemed like a real battle for a second, but with Cam Skattebo having that hamstring injury, it does seem like Tyrone Tracy will be the RB1 to start out the year. Now, Skattebo came back to practice today, and the Giants only practiced one time this week, so it's kind of odd they brought him back just for today. But they brought back Skattebo. That's good news, but he still is behind the 8 ball. Not sure if he even plays on Thursday. I'd be kind of surprised if he did, unless he's like actually fully healthy, but so far, it's mostly Tyrone Tracy. We've seen some Devin Singletary. Singletary had that rushing touchdown on Saturday after the Bo Collins long catch where he got down at the 1-yard line. For the base defense, it looks like it's Nacho, Roy Robertson Harris, who actually had some nice moments during the preseason. And then behind those guys, Jeremiah Ledbetter, and then you have rookie Darius Alexander, who got off to a bit of a late start. There was a lot of hype when the Giants took him in round 3. Almost said round 2, but they traded their second-round pick. But yeah, a round 3 pick that pretty much everybody, myself included, was a big fan of. But a bit of a slow start for Darius Alexander, but I still feel pretty good about him overall. But that's why I said maybe defensive end. It seems like it's Raheem Nunez-Roches and Roy Robertson Harris. That's probably who's starting next to Dexter Lawrence in week 1. Quarterback, I wrote down just for the hell of it. It seems like Russell Wilson. And this is the first time in Russ's career that he has a round 1 quarterback like breathing down his neck. And sometimes that brings out the best in people. The famous example was pretty recent. Aaron Rodgers, when they drafted Jordan Love behind him, went on to win back-to-back MVPs. Not saying that'll happen to Russell Wilson. I doubt it. But sometimes that's the motivation some guys need. Although this is a different example because Rodgers was only on one team and now Russ is on like his fourth different team in 4 years basically. So it's not a direct comparison, but you get what I'm saying. Jackson Dart, want to talk about him, of course. He's looked really good in the preseason. The Giants are smart by implementing a lot of things that he did at Ole Miss, whether it's like the quick screens, even the RPOs. There were some like quarterback draws in there. There was a tight end screen to Theo Johnson where Jackson Dart had to change his arm angle. It looked really good. It was like Matthew Stafford, like just a little sidearm pass to get it around the defender, and Theo Johnson took it for like 30-something yards. We've seen some screens to Dante Miller, who's looked good in the preseason so far, just some quick swing passes. So a lot of quick stuff, up-tempo, stuff that Jackson Dart is used to doing. So the Giants and Brian Daboll are doing a very good job of catering to what these guys are good at. And for Russell Wilson, you'll see him under center a lot more and doing those play-action passes, which Russell Wilson is comfortable doing. So I do like that Brian Daboll is not basically saying, you guys have to do what I want. I'm going to try and do what you guys are good at. So playing to your guys' strengths, like that's a great idea. I like that. And I tweeted the other day, of course, some people took exception to it because it's Twitter, why not? But I said the other day that I think Jackson Dart's floor is very high. Like I'd be surprised, and I think I used the names Case Keenum and Teddy Bridgewater. I would be surprised if Jackson Dart does not have a career at least to that level. Like that is me saying that the worst I can see Jackson Dart being is a guy who sticks around for 10 plus years, could be a good starter for a couple years, which Bridgewater and Keenum had their moments. Keenum had that one great year. Bridgewater was a decent starter for about a 3-4 year stretch. So for me to say that about Jackson Dart, I find it a compliment. Some people on Twitter, once again, didn't like that I said that, but like, I don't know. I think it's fine. So anyway, I think the guy's a high floor. The ceiling's still high too, because we don't know what Jackson Dart can be. I saw Dan Schneier, he put this on Twitter that somebody he knows compared him to Tony Romo, which I kind of like that as well. I was a big Tony Romo fan. I made a video defending him like 5 years ago because I really do think Tony Romo, I know the postseason's not great, but I think Tony Romo was a really good quarterback. I think so many people just shit on the guy because the postseason thing and not holding that kick and all that. It's easy to poke fun at that, but the guy was genuinely a good quarterback. So if Jackson Dart turns into Tony Romo, I'll sign up for it right now. Another competition, backup tackle. Now, Marcus Bowe is making this a real thing. So the Giants, of course, they signed James Hudson, Stone Forsythe to be the backup swing tackles. They drafted Marcus Bowe. Some of us thought he might play guard in the NFL. The Giants seem like they want to put him at tackle. So they played him at left tackle in the preseason, and he's looked really good. He's allowed one pressure on 60 pass blocking snaps. I saw that from Giants Nation show, Bobby Skinner. And like based on just what we're watching, it makes sense. Like the guy is playing very well. It looks like this competition is not enough for him. So Marcus Bowe can overtake Stone Forsythe and James Hudson right from the jump and be a backup swing tackle. Now, if something were to happen to Andrew Thomas, God forbid, or even like a Luminor, I kind of feel comfortable at this point putting Marcus Bowe in there and being like, he'll be fine. Like, I don't look at him as like a 5th round rookie that has a lot of growing to do. I feel like he's pretty good. So I think the Giants so far have to be thrilled with Bowe. I don't know why he really fell in the draft. A lot of people were confused by that one. But if he plays like this, I mean, yeah, it's going to go down as a steal. So that's looking great. Bobby Okereke, inside linebackers, Micah McFadden, Darius Muasau. Some people speculated Okereke could be like a surprise cut, surprise trade. I don't think it's going to be to that level, but Okereke, it's been like weird vibes. I'm not sure what to think. He's kind of been playing with some of the second team guys at some points in preseason. So that'll kind of raise some eyebrows. But overall, he should still be here. He was definitely signed to be a Don Martindale defense type of guy. Of course, he played under Martindale for 1 year. Martindale left the Giants and got on a plane and never returned. So we know how that went, but it's just maybe not the best scheme fit for Okereke, but it's still hard to convince me that Micah McFadden or especially Darius Muasau are better football players right now than Bobby Okereke. So I hope Okereke is still the starting inside linebacker, but we'll see how that plays out in week 1. The latest news, I mentioned Malik Neighbors back from practice after missing 11 days. That, of course, was scary, but he has a toe injury as well, dating back to LSU. So a back and a toe. It's scary stuff, especially for a guy who this offense should revolve around, but hopefully he's okay. He did play through it last year, the toe injury, so I'm hoping he does that again. Andrew Thomas got activated. Cam Scattaboo returned to practice, so good news for those 3 guys. Dante Miller, I mentioned him for a second, a 2024 UDFA. He's played really well in the preseason. They tried to use him at gunner on special teams, just trying to find different avenues for him to make the roster. I hope he does because he looked really good. Eric Ray's been out with injury, so he's been receiving the ball well. He's been looking explosive, running pretty hard. So I never thought of Dante Miller as somebody I would be hoping makes the team after what I saw last year. Not that he was bad last year, but like he didn't like open my eyes and like, oh, I like this guy. But now this year, Dante Miller's looked different, so I do like what I see there. Offensive line so far has looked really good in the preseason. Once again, it is preseason. A lot of preseason doesn't translate to the regular season, but you have to like what you see so far with Carmen Brasillo. Even a guy like Josh Azuda has looked pretty good, or Josh Azudu. I don't know why I said Azuda, but Josh Azudu has looked good at left guard so far. He looked really good against the Jets. And while, once again, there's no Andrew Thomas yet, but even the other guys on the offensive line look pretty good. So, I mean, especially the young guys. So you have to think that the Carmen Brasillo coaching is finally paying off here. Like, the Giants have not had good offensive line coaching in what feels like a very long time. So for them to maybe finally get that right, It's a great feeling. I hope that carries over to week 1. Of course, the Giants' offensive line, before Thomas went down last year, the first 6-7 games, the offensive line was pretty good. So I hope it turns into that once again. We got to hope Andrew Thomas can stay on the field for a full season. But even if he did miss some time, as I said, I feel okay about Marcus Bowe. And even like James Hudson, if you had to play him for a game or two at left tackle, I guess it's okay. It could be worse. We've definitely seen worse. Like, I think the Giants at one point had, I almost said Justin Pugh at left tackle, right? Was that 2 years ago maybe? I forget now. But like they've had worse is what I'm getting at. Even Josh Azudu playing left tackle, I think it was him when Daniel Jones got blindsided in Miami against Van Ginkel and had the neck injury. I wanted to mention Bo Collins on Saturday, had that monster catch from Russell Wilson. That was really cool to see in person. Like, that happened like right in front of me. I saw Russell release that thing, and it's just crazy because you watch Russell Wilson, you're like, this guy is like, can he really throw the ball that far? And you see it in person, it's like, holy crap. Like, I know Russell has monster sized hands and it definitely helps, but to see a guy like that throw the ball 60 something yards, it's crazy. But Bo Collins, UDFA out of Notre Dame / Clemson, had a big catch, but also may have ran the wrong route, which led to a Russell Wilson interception. So good and bad from that standpoint, but I also wrote down he definitely passes the aura test because him wearing number 8 with that arm sleeve, it looks tough. It does. Like, I know number 8 with the Giants gives me PTSD, but seeing a wide receiver wear that with the arm sleeve, like, it's a great look in my opinion. So as I mentioned, final preseason game Thursday. Brian Dable has played the starters in preseason so far, so I don't know how long they'll play for. I would hope Jackson Dart plays a lot in that game because in all likelihood, assuming that Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston don't get injured, Jackson Dart probably won't see the field for next couple months at least. So I would hope Jackson Dart gets to play in this game for a while because this might be the last time he gets to play in a game for a long time. So I'm hoping it's Jackson Dart for at least 3 quarters. Like, all right, you want to put Russell Wilson out there for a drive or two, fine. Put Jameis in right behind him, fine. But then quarters 2, 3, and 4, I do want to see Jackson Dart out there. So I hope they do it that way, but we'll see on Thursday. The next segment is called Things I'm Excited for this season. Number 1 is the quarterback position. I have said before, I think this might be the Giants' best quarterback room since 2015 when Eli Manning had like 35 touchdowns, and I just feel like ever since then, Giants fans have watched pretty underwhelming to atrocious quarterback play. So to finally have something that we can be excited for, not to say Russell Wilson's great at this point in his career, but Russell Wilson can be an average starting quarterback. Can he be the 15th, 16th best quarterback in football next year? Why the hell not? Or I should say this year. So looking forward to that. And it is cool to have a future Hall of Famer under center with the Walter Payton patch, the captain patch. Like, it just looks cool. So Russell Wilson, I'm excited for that. I've always been a Russell Wilson guy, so I'm happy he's a Giant. And I'm a Jameis Winston guy too, of course. And Jackson Dart, we'll see him at some point this year once again, unless the Giants go on this unexpected run to the playoffs. And let's say Russell Wilson's having a great year. The Giants are 11-6, which I just don't see once again. Of course, it'd be great, but I just don't see it. Now, if I had to guess, originally, I was going to say I don't think we see Jackson Dart until the final 4 games of the season, which was after the bye. But now that he's looked good in preseason, he just looks mature out there, he looks poised and confident. Assuming Thursday goes well, which I guess it's not the biggest deal if he shits the bed against the Patriots in the preseason game, but assuming he plays okay, I think he'll be out there for week 11 against the Packers. It's a home game. There is a potential losing streak right before that game. Looking at the schedule, it is at Denver. Well, week 6 is versus Philly, a Thursday. Then you have at Denver, a Sunday, which I think you would give Russell Wilson that game because it's a tough environment. It's a revenge game. Give Russ a shot in that game. So Philly, at Denver, at Philly, versus San Francisco, at Chicago. And based on how Chicago's offense looked on, was it Saturday night, whenever the hell they played? It's the Ben Johnson offense now. I know it's preseason once again, but they looked very good. So the Bears won't be a pushover. the Giants have a chance to lose 5 games in a row right there. And if that's the case, then I think after a 5-game losing streak and Brian Daboll, the seat getting warm, I think there's a chance they start Jackson Dart week 11, a 1 o'clock game hosting the Green Bay Packers. Then after that, it's at Detroit. Then you're at New England for a Monday nighter, and then it's the bye week. And then you have that pretty soft ending the final 4 games with Washington at home. The Commanders are Washington at home, Minnesota at home. You're at the Raiders week 17. Then you're home against Dallas. So 3 of the final 4 games will be at MetLife, and the 1 road game is at Las Vegas. So it's a pretty not easy. Nothing's easier for the Giants, but compared to the rest of the schedule, it's easier. I will put it that way. So I do think Jackson Dart ends up starting 7 games this year. Not sure what the hell he's going to do in those games, but whatever it is, I'm looking forward to it. The last time we had this experience with a rookie quarterback coming in, first-round pick, was DJ back in 2019. Of course, he was great the first couple games, and the big Buccaneers come back, so hopefully it's something like that. Just, I hope the rest of his career doesn't play out like his did. So that's my guess. Week 11, I am excited for Malik Nabers. That's number 2. Building on that first year, how does he look with a better deep ball thrower? I think like maybe the receptions come down, maybe the target share isn't as high, but in terms of making big plays, he definitely should do that with Russell Wilson. So I'm curious how that looks. We know Russell's not the best quarterback throwing over the middle, but I'm sure Nabers will get a lot of deep balls on the boundary, and Nabers in a 50-50 ball. I'm trusting him a lot in those situations, and I'm sure Russell Wilson will too. I've said this before. If Jameis Winston were to play all season, which he won't, but if he did, I think Malik Nabers can push for like 1,800 yards. It's. I know it's crazy to say that, but the way Jameis plays the quarterback position, I think it's possible. Like, he was making Jerry Jeudy look like a top 10 receiver at one point last year. Not to shit on Jerry Jeudy, but he's not top 10. He's maybe, I don't know, maybe top 20, maybe. He definitely makes receivers look good, Jameis, but it won't be a full season of him. I doubt it. Number 3, a healthy offensive line. I put plus Evan Neal. I'm not sure why I did that. That must have been a few weeks ago. But I was hoping Neal would win the right guard job because Greg Van Roten's 35. You know what you have. And it would have been great to see Evan Neal come in here and kick ass, as Dave Gettleman once says, come in here and kick ass. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen Evan Neal come in here at right guard and just, once again, kick ass from day one. Not the case. But the offensive line should look pretty good in my opinion. Andrew Thomas, John Runyon, I trust those guys. I have to trust Thomas to stay healthy. John Michael Schmitz, which I haven't heard too many bad things about him in training camp and preseason, so I'm hoping that JMS looks better. Greg Van Roten I also trust, and then Jermaine Illuminor. So, like, I pretty much trust everybody and know what we're getting from 4 of these guys. I'm not sure about JMS because it's his 3rd year or 4th year, I forget. 3rd year, yeah. So, I mean, the first 2 years were pretty underwhelming for what we expected. So, it's a big year 3 for JMS, and he is the one big question mark on this offensive line. But let's say in a hypothetical world where we're thinking positively, let's say JMS has a really good year, right? Let's say he's like the 10th best center in football. If he does that, this offensive line could be really freaking good. I think a lot of it comes down to him, and a lot of it comes down to the health of number 78, and we'll see if Thomas does stay healthy. Number 4, how does the offense look with Mike Kafka calling plays full-time for the first time since 2022? He called plays a little bit in 2023, but Brian Daboll just yanked that shit pretty early in that season. I think it was like halfway through week 2. Was it week 2? Yeah, week 2 against Arizona. So he pulled that play sheet real quick, and we have not seen Mike Kafka really call plays consistently since. So I am looking forward to that because they got to the playoffs that year and got the most out of Daniel Jones that anybody ever has. And as I said before, if what we've seen in preseason holds up, they are catering to which guy is under center. So if it's Russell Wilson, he'll be play action, under center, things like that, throwing to the boundaries. And if it is Jackson Dart, we might see some more RPO up-tempo type stuff. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Number 5, how does Cam Skattebo, not Scam Cataboo, how does Cam Skattebo translate to the NFL? Obviously, he's a guy who in college was running over guys, yards after contact monster, had like 1,200 yards after contact or something crazy last year. How does that translate against grown men? That's what we have to find out. I think he'll be fine. He's actually a better receiver than I think most of us gave him credit for. We saw that in some of the training camp clips. He was really good at receiving, and even in college, he was a good receiver. But just when you thought about him, it was more like you're thinking of him running over guys and not being a receiver, but he's good at that too. So how does that strength translate to the NFL? I am looking forward to Cam Skattebo, but once again, it's probably Tyrone Tracy right away. We might not see Cam Skattebo have an established role the first couple games. It might take a while to settle in. Now, if this hamstring injury never happened and he kept playing, then we could have seen Skattebo splitting reps with Tracy from week 1, but I just don't see that being the case anymore. It could happen. It's not impossible, but I think that injury really set him back. Number 6, is the pass rush as good as advertised? You have Burns, Abdul Carter, Kayvon, Chauncey Golston, Dexter Lawrence. Are those guys as good as they are on paper? Can Shane Bowen get the most out of those guys? I don't know. I have my concerns with Shane Bowen. I really do. From a personnel standpoint, from what we see on the depth chart, this defensive line is ridiculous. And if for some reason Shane Bowen fails with this defensive line, it will probably be tough for him to get a defensive coordinator job ever again, because that would look pretty bad on his resume. Like, imagine getting interviewed a couple years from now and being like, you had the 27th most sacks in football with Abdul Carter and Kayvon and Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence. How did this happen? And like, he'll just sit there with a blank face because I don't know how you make that happen. So anyway, I hope that this defensive line wrecks games and looks great. It would look better if the Giants got out to some leads, because you want to be in a positive game script for pass rushing. If the Giants are down by 14 at halftime every game, it's going to be tough to get sacks and pressure the quarterback. So hopefully they can get up and stay competitive. Number 7, Paulson Adebo and Javon Holland. I did get to see them up close on Saturday. I feel like those guys are good vibes type of dudes. Like, even in like the pregame stretches, they're out there like singing and high-fiving and just like bringing a lot of life to this team. So I do like what I've seen from them so far. And Adebo's had, I guess, some rough training camp days, but Javon Holland's look good. And if those guys just stay healthy, which is the main thing, then they should be fine. So I'm looking forward to those big free agent acquisitions. And number 8, final number 8. Do Dable and or Shane do enough to keep their jobs? Do wins matter, or is it just progress? I lean more towards I think it matters with progress. If the Giants hypothetically won 5 games this year, which their over-under is 5.5, we'll get to that in a second, but if they won 5 games hypothetically, but looked really good doing it, and they were in just about every game, and Jackson Dart came in the last 4 to 7 games and looked really good, but it only translated to 5 wins, would they still fire? Would John Mara still fire these guys if that were the case? I would say no. I think that would buy them another year. But if they have a 4-win season, 5-win season, and there's plenty of blowouts and plenty of embarrassment, and they start out the year terribly, yeah, they might get fired. Like, we'll see. I think if they get like past 6 or 7 wins, definitely safe. But once you're in like that 4 or 5-win territory, it's kind of up for interpretation. And if it's like 3 wins or less, if you don't improve from last year's 3-win total, that might be it for both. So, and especially if Jackson Dart looks terrible, which I don't see being the case. Once again, I think the floor is high, but in this scenario where it's the worst possible outcome, maybe that's enough to get them fired. So we'll see. The Vegas line for the Giants is 5.5 wins, which to some of us who are fans, it might seem low, but I would say the reasons for it, you have a declining quarterback in Russell Wilson, who I know some Steelers fans couldn't wait to get rid of that guy. I get it. There's a rookie quarterback behind him and Jameis Winston, so nobody that right now is for sure a top 20 quarterback in football. Maybe Russell Wilson is once again, but it's up for interpretation. The coaching staff and possibly GM fighting for their jobs, that's not going to lead to a high win total. The rest of their division is better. We know Washington's on the come up. We know the Eagles are defending champions. We know the Cowboys get George Pickens, and We'll see if Parsons comes back. I guess he will, but they should be better with a healthy Dak Prescott. They have one of the, maybe the toughest schedule in the NFL. And of course, their performance and recent records will definitely go into this. Like, the Giants have been one of the worst teams in football since 2017. So they have that stank around them. Like, the Giants, I'm sure when it comes to sports books and them making lines, I don't know how much of that goes into it, but you have to look at their last 7 years or so as an organization and be like, those guys just never seem to win over 6 games. So let's keep the Vegas line at 5.5. I don't know what goes into it, but that could be part of it. So my record prediction, I don't know if I want to do this now. I guess I will, right? Because it's the Giants season preview video. I originally had 6-11, and I'm sitting here thinking, is that too pessimistic? Like, if I can pick 6.5, I would. So I'm sitting here debating, do I want to pick them at 6-11 or 7-10? And I want to go through the schedule and just trying to pick out 7 wins. Let's see if I can get there. I think they win week 1. I've been saying that. I think they can do it. I think they can beat the Saints. I think they can beat Denver. I do like Denver a lot this year, but it's possible. I think they can beat one of the Bears or Niners. They can beat Green Bay. Hell, I've seen Tommy Cutlets beat Green Bay, so we'll say that's possible. I don't know. I do like the Patriots a lot, so I'll say no. But I do think they split with Washington, so if I'm giving them the week 1 win, I don't want to give them the other win. So I don't think they beat Minnesota. I do like them a lot. They can beat the Raiders and probably can beat the Cowboys. So I think that got me to 7 wins. But once again, that's a high-end outcome. I don't want to be a homer. So I'll stick to 6-11, but I do want to say 7-10. But if I had to just mark it in blood right now, I'll say 7-10. I say on the high end, they stay in a lot of games and become a team like 2022 that can keep games low scoring and win the field position battle a lot and just find a way to just win these close games, 17-14, 21-20, and maybe it gets them to 8-9. The schedule might be too difficult. Russell Wilson looks cooked. Dart doesn't look much better and looks overwhelmed. Brian Dable gets fired. And then they finish at 4-13. So that's possible as well. So I think I have 6-11. I guess that can change because we still have time before the season starts. But as I said, this is the best I feel about this team in a while. I don't know if it's because I was at the stadium on Saturday and like it just felt different. Like it felt like a group that actually liked each other. Like I feel like the last couple of years with the Giants, it just felt like a group that showed up to work because that was their profession. It wasn't like a team that was playing like they love football or love being there. I just got a lot of those vibes last year that they were just not a tight group, and the whole Daniel Jones thing was awkward because he was gone halfway through the year, and I don't know, like even the year before that, Tommy Cutlets playing over Tyrod Taylor, that was awkward, and that team sucked and blew a lot of games. So yeah, I feel like this year things are much different. They have an adult in the room at quarterback and Russell Wilson who motivates his guys. Jackson Dart clearly motivates his guys. Jameis Winston probably motivates a section of the team. I don't know which section that is, but he probably does. So the Giants did a good job of bringing in a really improved quarterback room, and I think anyone on this team, any one of these 3 quarterbacks is an improvement over what they had last year. Like if you compare even the worst guy, whether it's Jackson Dart or Jameis Winston, I would take either of those guys over Daniel Jones and Drew Lock any day of the week. So they made the big improvements. They have one of the best defensive lines in football, an offensive line that should be pretty good if Thomas stays healthy and JMS doesn't shit himself in year 3. And you brought in secondary help, which this team needed. So you have corners that right now it should be Adebo, it should be Banks, it should be Flott, Phillips. Like you have a good cornerback room. Like I like that. So even Tyler Nubin, if he steps up in year 2 and Javon Holland stays healthy, like this defense could be very good. So I'm looking forward to it. I think they can get to 7-8 wins if things break right. I ultimately have them at 6-11, but I think it will be a very competitive 6-11. It'll be a fun to watch 6-11, and I do think that in week 11 that Jackson Dart makes his first NFL start. So that's how I feel right now. We'll see what happens when the season starts. I'll probably make at least one more Giants video before week 1 because there is a lot of time between now and then, still 2.5 weeks or so. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know some of you commented like, yo, Mike, where's the Giants videos? And like, I just didn't have much to talk about over the offseason. Like we covered the draft, we covered free agency, and I feel like a lot of the same takes were recycled over and over again during the offseason. And I was like, what's the point of me hopping on here and saying that Abdul Carter looks different, because like every other person is saying that. So I felt like I had nothing to offer from that perspective. So took some time off, did some other stuff, and that's about it. So yeah, I'll be back reacting to every game. Hope you guys stay tuned for that. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll talk to you guys next time.